So we're going to be talking for the next half an hour or so around more women in power, right? So when we were putting the agenda together and around the subtopics that we wanted to cover, I shared a statistic before that, I think the last piece of research that was out there, that there was actually only 5% of women in leadership roles in technology. And I really can't see that has shifted much. Even when the question was asked around how many women and people in the audience were part of hiring panels, and, there was hardly anyone in the room. And these are the things that we need to change. I've been involved in the tech sector now for a good 20 years. And, sometimes you get asked to talk about topics and you're covering the same things and then things don't change. And it's quite frustrating in a way that you obviously want to talk and want to share it, but then what's actually going to be done about it? So when I was thinking about this panel, I wanted to relate it to a new piece of research, and it's the Ada Lovelace report. I don't know how many people have seen it, shared it. It's We Are Tech Women, the massive friends and allies to Empowe, and they've done an amazing piece of research. Please do go on and download it, with some unfortunately staggering statistics about the retention of women in leadership, but more importantly about what can be done to take action, to have more women in those roles, to basically influence in terms of what's next for women in tech. And those are sort of the topics that I want to cover in the panel. Like always, we've got a Slido, and so I'm going to make sure at the end of it I leave enough room to answer questions and ask our panellists questions that matter most to the people that are in the room today. But before I do, I would like to welcome our panellists. So if you could introduce yourselves.
Okay. Oh, am I using this one or?
So I didn't need them, do we? Oh, we're all right then.
So I am Maya Ellis. I'm the Labour Member of Parliament for Ribble Valley up in Lancashire. I've been a Member of Parliament for the past year and a half, and before that I was working very much within Manchester and then Lancashire, building sort of tech ecosystems, doing a lot of regeneration work, attracting startups to base themselves there. And so Becky and I had worked together on that agenda for a long, long time, very much trying to bed in how diversity and inclusion from the start when you're building sort of newer ecosystems in this space. And now a lot of my focus is actually more on early years and maternity. I spent a long time working within tech and innovation policy, but got increasingly frustrated that on much of the topics that you've been talking about today, the big blocker to me seemed to be equality in those first few years, and how we support paternity leave, maternity leave, how we support women to feel empowered at that stage, and the sort of the knock-on effect later means that they feel confident in all parts of their life. So that's a lot of my focus these days, but it's very much feeding into this wider agenda of how we make sure that women have a voice, in every industry and in every part of society.
I think I just point out, when I stepped away from my traditional corporate career, and James and I set up our first consultancy called CLOS Consultancy, I was the first person that believed in us and actually brought us in to the landing, formerly the landing in Salford Quays. And then we became really good friends, and we've even been to play centres with our children together. And to see her get into Parliament, I'm just so incredibly proud of her, and that's what I wanted to say it publicly, because I am for him. Thank you for attending today as well. Thank you. Jen.
Hi everyone, I'm Jen. I'm the lead platform engineer for the cloud platform team at Money Group. I have a very standard background, I guess, in tech. I study computer science. I was like Marie, trying to make my MySpace profile the best ever. And then my friend said, oh, computer science is basically like, web design, so try that. Spoiler, that is not. There are so many other things. And then I followed the standard path, becoming like a program analyst and then pivoting a little bit more into DevOps, into where I am today. So for me, it was quite interesting, because whilst maybe in my cohort we had 200 people and we only had 10 girls, by the time we graduated, we only had 3. But that was my normal. And I didn't realize how different it was until I worked with someone actually in my previous job who was a woman who was in a leadership team, but she was fantastic. She was everything I wanted to be in tech, but I didn't realize the effect it had on me because I was just so used to working with men that I didn't know any different. So, and then talking to my sister as well. So I'm 10 years older than my sister. And I was just so used to talking about tech with her that she actually went on to do a computer science degree. Again, not knowing that there was it's a man's world, essentially. And then she didn't realize that until I came in for Christmas, and she said to me, "Oh, I didn't realize that there were so many men, but you spoke about it as your normal job, that it was just normal, but I just didn't know that there was such a big gap." So that was quite interesting. So it's really nice to sort of come up here and sort of meet loads of different people who've all different kinds of backgrounds and share what I know from my journey into tech and where I am today.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Umayma Haider. I am basically full-time academic. I am the senior lecturer at the University of East London, where I teach all tech-related subjects such as cloud computing and database and a little bit of AI as well. If you talk about my previous background, well, my first degree is also in computer information system engineering because my mom wanted to be the engineer and in the tech field. So that's only because of then I got the interest. I get my master's in computer security, forensic and risk management, followed by my PhD in software engineering. Then my postdoc was also in cloud computing. So then I started doing the research fields and get into multiple roles. And since last 5 years, I have been in full-time academic position where I teach these all computing related subjects at the University of East London. Other than that, I also lead the diversity committee of my department, where the main objective is to promote the women, particularly in the staff, and to raise their issues and other concerns. Other than that, I had held various ambassador roles. I'm also the STAMP UK ambassador. I'm the Nomadic Futurist ambassador. We promote young talent to bring into this industry. And I'm also the ambassador for Global Women in Tech Network.
So just a few things, yeah? So we've put this panel together specifically to look at different perspectives, and hope you can obviously see that in terms of the political landscape, in terms of the commercial leadership and the education sort of sector. So I'm going to use some of the statistics in the report because obviously that's most up-to-date sort of research that has been done around women in leadership. So apparently there's 25% of women in technical roles and actually less than 30% of that 25% in leadership positions held by women. I really want to look at the practical approaches companies and individuals can do here that can really address recruitment, retention and promotion to try and change those numbers. Are the things that you can see, Jen, I'll come to you first, around what companies can do practically to help those statistics?
Yeah, I think the first one's obviously come up quite a few times today, having a woman on the interview panel. I remember when I applied for jobs, and it's always been historically men. And then once I applied for a job and both interviewers were women, and I've never felt, I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And they were both technical as well. And more interestingly, one was a lead and one was junior. So it doesn't matter what level you are. I think you should be part of the interview panel, because then it actually shows the interviewee, hey, like, we are an inclusive company. We do have lots of everyone from different backgrounds interviewing. And I think one of the things I'm really passionate about is retention of women in the company, because I think there was a stat by one of the studies that said that 50% of women leave data or tech mid-career, and that is quite concerning because we're getting people through the door but we're not keeping them. And why is that? And it's just taking a lot longer for women to progress. So maybe if we reach out to, like, I don't know if anyone's in HR or anything like that, but if people aren't progressing and women aren't progressing, why is that? Maybe we should review, I don't know, the entire department and say, well, these 3 women, they've been in the same role for the last 2 years and they haven't progressed. Maybe reach out to them and say, what can we do to support you in that role? And then lastly, like, allyship is so important. If you have feedback for your colleagues to help give them a boost in their confidence, do it. Like, I remember when I first started at Money Supermarket, within a few months, there were lots of changes that were happening. And one of my colleagues here, Matt, actually, he messaged me on Teams and he was like, "Oh, are you hired as a platform engineer? Because you come across really senior. You're doing a really great job." And that came out of nowhere. It was uncalled for, but that feedback really gave me confidence that I was doing something right. So I think as women and as males, just support everyone around you. If you have feedback, just give it.
That retention piece is quite interesting, is, you talk about progression. The amount of organisations that I've worked with over the years that if women return for whatever reason, it's almost they're getting written off of wanting to progress. They go, "Oh, well, you've got other things to be doing, so we won't focus on there." So I think that's really good in terms of highlight it to those departments, that development departments, go, "Why aren't those women?" But I understand not everybody wants to progress, but actually giving people the opportunity to do so as well. That's great points. Thank you. Emena?
Yeah, I mean, if you talk about, you use the figures of 25% and the 30%, I mean, overall tech industry. Like, if you see, my main research area is more about in the data centers and the digital infrastructure. Just to give you a big, just a quick, what is data centers, where the internet lives. So in my area, which we say that more digger deeper into the tech industry, if you say is that we have less than 25% women and less than 10% reach the leadership role. So we are struggling in our sector as well. I think so. I talk about from the recruitment perspective, I think so. When the recruiters or something, this is, I mean, if I take my personal example, I mean, if there is any job description available or something, if I see they need the company requires 10 criteria, whatever it is in the job description. If I see that, okay, 2 or 3 of them, I'm not meeting them. And I know it's more of the other girls' situation as well. They says we are not meeting 2 or 3, we are not going to apply. At the same time, if you look at the male colleague or the man, they says, okay, we are meeting 6, let's go and apply. We will see what will happen. So I think so that's the lack of the confidence or something that we need to think about that in terms of, and obviously the recruitment team also needs to think about the transferable skills as well. It's not that you in one position you need the same experience. I think so earlier in your session, Becky, you were saying can't control and can control. I think so one of the member over here says that I'm the backend, but I want to the full stack developer. So that's what we need to think, the recruiter, to move on from that. If the person have a tech stack qualification or tech stack experience, something they can do one thing. The other thing as well, just upskilling or giving them some training courses within in-house organization, or there are various now online training courses available to give them the chance to this. And the other element is about the retention. Again, in our industry, particularly in my research area in digital infrastructure, the retention, most of the operators and the industry says that they are lacking to retain the staff. 44% of them says that they're struggling to retain. I think so it's because the people are going on break and coming back. They are couldn't open up. If I talk about my department as well, like we teach the computing, and every year we need to update our course curriculum and everything to meet the demands. If you see ChatGPT in last couple of years, how many versions have come across? There are different LLMs, different things is going on. So if the person comes from 1 year or 1.5 year, whatever the from maternity leave, that female has to cope up with that to teach that particular curriculum up to date, because otherwise the students start complaining that it's not updated or something. So these are the elements that the organization, I'm just saying, it's in our academia we are struggling this. Now I can imagine in the corporate sector is the same thing that is happening. It's more worse because we are teaching, but it's more worse in this case. And promotion, I think again promotion is the report that pointed out. It already says the women normally get promoted after 4 or 5 years rather than as compared to the males who get promoted after 2 years. I think so it's because of the reason they have lack of confidence or raise awareness or something. But in our department at the university, I mean, thanks to our manager or something, they always try to promote women, and we in 4 or 5 years back we only have less than 5% of in our department. Now we have around 20%. So things are improving, I would say, but it's not at the same pace that we all really like to see how the technology is evolving.
Brilliant, thank you. Some really points from a company perspective to look at recruitment, retention, and obviously progression point. But then we flip the coin, and sometimes that when I've spoken to women around the opportunities to progress, it's sort of how they feel that holds them back. So we've touched upon imposter syndrome, confidence, can they actually see the progression opportunities? Can they see people that they can see that where they want to go in terms of that visibility. What do you think in terms of an individual, so a woman maybe in the audience today, could actually do to create those actionable steps to give themselves more confidence, clear progression, and sort of inspire the next generation of leaders in tech? Maya?
I think.
Oh, sorry, Samir.
I'm going to be really honest here and say I think we need to stop lying to women and saying that any of this is fair or any of this is going to be fair, because we live in a world where, on the whole, ultimately, a lot of it still isn't going to be fair. And I say that to set a tone, because I think it's great that in some of the really large organisations, and particularly I'm sure some of the organisations here, everyone's trying really hard to make sure that there is fairness there and that there is clear progression routes and things like that. But certainly in most SMEs, and I imagine in most sort of mid-sized companies as well, you're still relying on leaders in those companies who, might not always be the best and might not always have the best intentions, or might not really have at their heart that need for diversity. I think one thing practical I would say is always, if you are working in HR or even going into a company, really understand the culture of that company and really get to grips with, what is that leader saying or doing, and do they really care about the benefits of diversity? But I think I say that there is a positive you can take from that, and I've had to take that certainly in my world, is that you can have your wits about you, and you've got to kind of think about what your journey is on this route. And I think the other part of that, I would say, is that from a kind of a national point of view, if we look at what's happening nationally at the moment, we desperately need an improvement in productivity and growth, right? That means that actually a lot of our companies aren't doing as well as they should or could be doing. And that means there's an opportunity to do it better. So I think the biggest thing I can say to women, and the biggest thing that I've learned, is when you look around and look at people and someone's saying to you, you're not good enough for that job, they don't necessarily know that, they're not necessarily correct. And I think one of the biggest issues we have is that we have lots of companies that are there to try and make money rather than try and actually create something useful for this country and be productive and make products and things. So what I would say is that I say that partly from a mindset point of view of, if you are feeling disempowered, that's not necessarily you. That's the situation you are in or the people you're in. And we need smarter people. We need more driven people in our companies, but also to create new companies and do new things. And I think one of the biggest challenges we have is, and I appreciate it's a slightly different conversation, is a lack of sort of female entrepreneurship, because actually we know that often the time when people go and make businesses is around their 30s, when a lot of time women are focused on families. And obviously I'm generalising there, and I want that to shift. And I do a lot of campaigning on paternity leave, so that obviously, hopefully, we can get more men leading on that side of things. But on the whole, we need more women to use the creative forces that you already have in you. Like, it's not that you're not capable, and often it's not that you're not confident. It's that the people around you aren't letting you shine and lead. So I think it's a mindset shift that we have to take, which is that no one is going to give you this. You have to take it.
Relating to your own personal story, obviously, looking back when you started your career and where you are now, has confidence stopped you from going there? And if it has moments of where you felt like an imposter in that situation, what have you done? Because now you're a member of parliament. So,
I'll be honest. So I think imposter syndrome for me, I completely appreciate why people feel it and where it comes from. I think my biggest issue over time is sort of linked to what I just talked about, is that I've always been fairly self-confident, and I don't know if that's come from how I've been raised. My mum was really into Montessori. We kind of just were left to our own devices to work out what we did. And so I've got that confidence. I think my biggest issue is I could see, certainly in my 20s, I had a lot of opinions and was strong-willed, and some of that was wrong, but actually more of it was right than I was led to believe, And I say that now, and particularly when I meet young women, is like, you're more right than you think you are, like, and do believe that. So I think the frustration for me is I could see people around me looking at me as a young woman and thinking, you don't know what you're talking about. I still get that now. I still, I knock on doors and people are like, oh, you're very young to do this. I'm almost 40, and I know I look fairly young, which is very nice, but it is problematic. But I have to say, do you realise that, I'm the average age of the cabinet? That's where we are now. We're 40-year-olds are kind of running this country, and so you will get discrimination wherever you are. And bear in mind, that's women, that's working class people, that's, there's every different issue we've got. Power will always try and keep its little bubble. And I think, I can't remember what the question was now, but so I think just in terms of overcoming, I think you just have to be relentless. I still hate the idea that someone looks at me now and just thinks, oh, she's had this perfect journey. It's been hell. It's been really hard. There's been not millions, but multiple times where I've just thought, I don't want to do this. I think the critical thing for me has always been decide what you care about, decide what's important to you. For me, the goal wasn't being an MP. I wasn't interested in glory or anything like that. I had a mission. I wanted to make things better for women. I'm passionate about the north of England and the countryside. I wanted that to be a big thing too. I think work out what you care about, work out what matters to you as well, what sustains you, your family, going for walks, whatever it is, and kind of create that bubble, and don't just achieve for achievement's sake, work on the mission. And that way, however you get to that mission, whether it's like a really senior role or whether it's doing something in your community, hopefully you'll be satisfied either way.
Brilliant, thank you. Jen, from your perspective of your sort of career, and you were talking about obviously your relationship with your sister, and obviously, her looking to you in terms of our males, and now you're in a position of leadership. Sort of what advice would you give on your own personal experience about someone in the audience today wanting to progress, but maybe letting confidence or imposter syndrome hold them back?
I think that's quite interesting because when you touched upon, not ticking all the boxes. So I was quite similar. It took me a long time to get to being a lead engineer because I was just umming and ahhing for ages. I mean, still to this day, don't get me wrong, about 3 days out of 5, I'm still like, is this really for me? Am I still doing it right? But I've been in it for a while now, and it took me a while to get here because I kept thinking I wasn't ticking all the boxes. But I just spoke to people. Like, I spoke to my colleagues, I spoke to people who were already in that position, male or female, and said, like, here are my concerns. Can we just have a conversation about this? And they listened and they said, give it a try. Like, what's the worst that could happen? And I think that really clicked with me, because what is the worst that could happen? Like, if I took this position and I really hated it after 3 months, I could just say, you know what, being a lead is not for me. Can you just put me back down to senior? That's fine. But you just never know. And I think you said it yourself, like in your quotes, and then even Brene Brown has said, feel the fear and do it anyway. And you don't know, it could be the best thing ever, or it could be the worst thing ever. But if you don't take the leap, you're always going to be in that, I don't know. And then you're going to end up in this vicious cycle of, I probably should have done it. Like, if I'd done this a year ago, then I would have been maybe in a better position now. So I think just try and then speak to people. I think it doesn't even have to be people in your company. So you speak to people, you reach out to people on LinkedIn. You've got lovely people out here today. Just strike a conversation. I think everyone's been so lovely so far.
What was that pivotal moment for you? You said it took you years. Yeah. What can you remember? Did you wake up one day and go, right, today is the day I'm going to do it? Or what? Can you remember what that pivotal point was to go, right, well, I'm actually going to do it now. I'm going to give it a go.
So I'd actually spoken to, I spoke to Matt. I spoke to 2 other team leads. I spoke to my line manager, even my CTO actually spoke to as well. I literally was just like, I don't think I could do it, but I spoke to everyone. And then I think after about a few months, I literally just woke up one day and I was like, yeah, why not? Like, I have been literally umming and ahhing about this about at least half a year. There's what's the worst that could happen? And after I went for it, I was really nervous. For the first months, I was probably in like my every one-to-one meeting with Claire, my manager. I was like, "Oh, I'm doing a good job. Like, is this working?" But she was like, "No, you're doing great." And then I got feedback from everyone else on my team. I was like, "You've just slotted into the role, and you've been doing really well." And it wasn't me asking for that feedback. They just gave me that feedback, and them believing in me made me believe in myself even more, and that really helped.
May I want to just turn the conversation a little bit around, it was touched upon before in, I think it was Gemma's talking about it was Rebecca's talk, around talking about the importance of human in AI. And I wanted to ask what your thoughts are around, we know that AI is developing at a very rapid rate, and we are having the risk that there isn't diversity going into these models. What can we do in terms of to try and encourage more diversity as we continue to develop, especially from a leadership perspective?
I think, I mean, I always says that, I mean, it's normal says, people says that AI will take over your jobs. I always say it's the two sides of the coin, right? It's how you take it. If you remember, like, I mean, it's back, I mean, my mom used to tell me, because she's also an academic, like 20, 30 years, I mean, 40 years ago, something, when the calculators comes in, people start doing the calculations and they are more dependent on the calculator. Now, the same thing is coming a little bit about the chat GPT. If you write, if you want to rephrase, thing, everything, we go and use the chat GPT as well. So AI, I mean, and there was a couple of months ago, there was some recent survey comes across, and it was the questions asked from the participants is that, is this AI is taking you to the next level of job? It's not tech job, any kind of job. So it's kind of a mixed results come up. Globally, it says around 70% says definitely they are, AI is improving their level of job, no matter if you are from project management, from finance, from tech, whatever it is. But if they break down that survey, and this is, I mean, it depends on the geographic location as well. If you talk about Africa and Asia, this is 70%, 65%, something around, people says that the AI is not taking them up to the next level of the job. I think it's because of their upskilling or what is happening, or lack of skills that is available, or they have the unclear pathway at that moment. But if you talk about the Europe, US, the survey says that it's 75% of it says AI is taking their job to the next level. So obviously, CSB says that there was one keynote speaker was saying that it's just the prediction, the reports comes. I mean, if the reports will come at the end for everything as well, but we need humans to maintain or upgrade that robots. We need software developers, we need tech people to keep up with all the technologies that are coming up. So, I mean, I think I try to answer your question. So I wouldn't say that AI will take over your thing. It's that how you adjust yourself with this. You need to upskill yourself. Even if you are in the IT industry, you need to be thinks about that. If you are doing the simple software development, you need to think that how you can expedite your process by doing the codings and different experts by using the AI experts. Take it positively, and I'm sure it's going to expedite your career in the, no matter in the tech or wherever you are. I mean, it's give you a boost in your career.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to switch to some of the questions that come in, because I'm more interested in terms of the questions that our audience want to have answered today. Great question, Aya, in terms of the work that you're probably doing in terms of maternity, early childcare, etc. Why do you feel there's so little flexibility in tech leadership? Roles rarely offered, like, for example, 4-day week, job shares, part-time. And it's almost like, well, if I can't work full-time and have a family as well, you're not going to get promoted. What's your opinion on that? And can you give anything in terms of advice or action that companies could listen to today?
I have lots of opinions on that. I'm trying not to get in trouble. So I think it touches on some of the stuff I said earlier around, I think you've really got to pay attention to who's leading the companies that you're in and the culture. And you would hope, but I think there's fewer than we would like, of that there are leaders who understand the benefits of diversity. And critically, it's not just the benefits to the company, but the benefits to society. And I think we've lost a sense of a company having that social responsibility of actually, you know, if you're offering someone a 4-day week, actually we know that the stats, so I do a lot of campaigning on the 4-day week, we know that stats bear out that it improves productivity anyway, so don't let anyone tell you that's not the case. But it's also, you know, the benefit that the 4-day week gives to society to allow people that space to be in their communities, to be with their families and things like that. It's, you know, I would love to see more companies taking that responsibility as part of their role in society. I think as much as it is generalizing, it is what it is. That, again, the reason that I say I think we need more women-led companies is that I think for whatever reason, as it stands, because of how we're socialized, women-led we know if we created more women-led companies now, they would be more attuned to some of these issues and would hopefully create some of those things that are more kind of committed to societal and community outcomes as much as kind of just money. And I we all see it, the entrepreneurs, the people on LinkedIn who want that profile, and that's so much of who they are. I mean, just touching on the AI question, I think there's this, there's a huge thing about AI that, we're on the train with it now. There's not a lot we can do, but I think one of the big questions we should be asking as a society and talking about is who gets the benefits of that AI? Okay, so I think the 4-day week argument is that all that money should not be going to just the shareholders or to the owners of those companies. It should be enabling us as a society to have more time. So it's Animal Farm, basically. That principle of why are we working so hard and doing all this work, and a small group of people get those benefits, rather than actually what should happen is we all should be able to take it a little bit easier and have those benefits ourselves. So again, question, but hopefully that answers it in terms of
do you think we'll get there?
I think people in this room and people like me have a lot of fighting still to do, and so it's not a conversation for now, but rest is productive. Good Lord, make sure you have time to keep regrouping, because this isn't going to end. This is going to be, and I promise I won't get too political, but the fact is, right now we have a very, very progressive government for the first time in 14 years. In 5 years' time, we may suddenly swing the other way, and there's a real chance that's going to happen to a party that wants women all to stay at home. So I think politically, we are nowhere near out of the woods. We are going like that as a pendulum in terms of politics. So this is a fight that's not going to stop. I think you've got to take care of yourselves, but I think, like I say, the more that people can sort of organise and really, both politically for sure, but also in terms of companies, like, you will all have really great ideas. I get that it's way harder because all the caring burden is almost entirely on you in this room, but it's kind of find ways and find allies to make those things happen, and you've got to just grip that power, because again, I just don't think anyone's coming to give it to you.
Jen, what's your thoughts on it? Have you seen an organisation? Does your organisation offer sort of leadership roles where you don't need to work 5 days a week?
Yeah, I think one of the great benefits of working at a company is that we are quite flexible. And I think when I apply for jobs, I check the benefits page. That's one of the first things I check. Probably obviously job spec, but the benefits of what the company offers, because it always tells me a lot about the company, like Maya said. Because if they're offering only 12 weeks of maternity leave, that's a red flag for me, and I won't even go progress. And I've had that before when a recruiter said, "Oh, why do you want to pull out of this? It's a really good opportunity. You get a lot of money." And I was like, "No, because you've only got 12 weeks maternity. I'm not pregnant. I don't have any children, but in the likelihood I do, or other people do. I think it just says a lot when your maternity policy is only 12 weeks." And then it might be 6 weeks like full pay, and then like 6 weeks half pay, something like that. I find that ridiculous. So I won't even entertain that. But I will give them the feedback to take them back to that company and say, maybe you should look into this. And I've also been at a company where originally, this is when I was in my early 20s, not knowing much about maternity plus paternity, that it started off as 3 months. But then after joining the D&I group in that company, we rewrote that policy to turn to 6 months full pay. And then for the paternity leave as well, we went from 2 weeks to a month. So things change can happen. I think and like Maya said, we do have a long 5 AI coming in. We do have fight, but don't back down. I think sometimes we kind of think, oh, it's just me. It's just what can I do? But if we band together with all our colleagues and everyone here as allies, I think we will get there. And that's what we want to see, right? Maybe in like 20, 30 years time, fingers crossed, that we won't be having conversations about women in tech. Like the norm would just be people in tech. Like we won't be having these, we won't need to have these conferences anymore to talk about trying to get more women in tech and trying to keep that retention. It should just be, that's just the norm. And I think not everyone needs to be inventing the new big company or whatever. It's just women leadership, women in power. It's just great. That's where we want to get to.
So the theme of today is all about women in tech. What's next? I want to make the end question a bit more specific around women in leadership and tech. What's next? So if there's one piece of advice or recommendation or something that you would like to see happen, what's next? What would that look like to you? Maya?
I think I would say that I always say is be confident, no matter if it is a male-dominated industry. Be confident, have a good foundational background in terms of the academic or whatever. I mean, you are doing. Be confident on you. So I'm sure and do whatever you can do. If the man can do it, women can do it.
Jen?
I think it would be find your person. I think sometimes it can get quite lonely. You feel like you're fighting a big uphill battle on your own. But if you can just find that one person who will listen and who's on your side, it really does make all that difference. And then maybe more of you can get together, and then it will make a bigger difference. Yeah.
Do you have that as a matter of interest, Jen? You know, in terms of the leadership role that you've got, do you connect with other women leaders internally and externally?
So I've been quite fortunate. So Claire, she's my engineering manager, and I think without her, I don't think I would have taken that role. I think, but so it's just having that person. It's just having that person just to talk to about all my worries. And then I think the thing about having another female ally is that you can be quite vulnerable without being judged, because sometimes you do have situations where you might tell a male colleague and they might not understand that. So just having that allyship is really, really important. So I've been very lucky with Claire, and then in our company as well, they're also kind of same. Just having those, building that community at work, and just having those conversations.
Three very quick things. Find your village, because you're going to need them to sustain you. Rest is productive. You can't do anything if you don't keep having the breaks and rest. And as I said before, you're as smart as you think you are. So don't let anyone tell you that you're not.
Fantastic. Thank you so much to our final panel of the day. Hey, Sue.